coming up on Rassie Plus.
That's why you got the accolades that you did, professor or doctor. It proves that we in South Africa can get something right.
Jannie de Beer is one of my favorites.
Unbelievable.
I remember I had 3 when I either cleaned or placed the ball, then I just lied on the ground and checked.
You just see that.
Franco Mostert was playing I didn't know that, his 50th test match. We're in the huddle and Louis says he just want to say something.
I mean, can you imagine a soccer player going, Messi going say, no, put in rather Ronaldo? Never. No.
We know something has been stolen. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Come and hand it over to me. Nothing will happen. We'll just give it back. He comes with a teaspoon. They say, no, that's not what you're looking for. Nick, I'm always a bit nervous when somebody there was, which I still look up to, and yeah, getting you here. This whole thing is not about Springboks rugby itself. It's about who I learned from, where I buggered up, where I've apologized already, but also just in general, people getting to know. You know, they get to know all players, ex-players, but I mean, ex-coaches, 17 games on the trot, we won together, which is still a record. And just having you here and you just chat about a few things and people getting to know you a little bit better, our relationship, how you coached, how you found me as a player. And that we just want to do it really casual and share some of the...
Thanks, man. Thanks for inviting me. It's lovely to be here.
Now, when we started this thing, we said, listen, man,
it's a nice opportunity for you to get things across to the public that you can't necessarily say at a press conference.
Yes.
That's nice. Because you've got a good social media thing, but this is...
Well, I actually I'll get to it now, because I think there's a lot of guys I've worked with fucked up. But not in a bad way. I don't want to say it like that. But I just saw shit. I don't want to make that mistake.
We could talk about mine straight away. I mean, the captain, that was one, and the integration of the team, which didn't work on that 98 tour because of Bobby getting a bit ahead of himself, and we weren't able to take the team along with us. I should, before that tour, have reset goals, sat down with the leadership group, and said, guys, I think we need to rotate in this test match series to try and make sure that the guys stay fit and strong for 99. But the focus from the players was, don't drop me. Everyone thought if you were put on the bench, you were dropped, or if you were out of the bench and, you were then in the wilderness, So there was a big difference between remember that B team in 98 and that was the mistake I made, because I thought I could make a few changes and the players would understand. And unfortunately, you've got to explain it to the players and also get buy-in from the players. And maybe you don't do it. You don't do it so quickly. Maybe you present the idea and then get them to be used to it, and then perhaps.
But Nick, I actually, we can start, as I always say to the guys, the boys will edit what doesn't make sense for us. But and there's a few things I actually want to tell you, which I learned, which I don't even think I knew I learned. Why I'm not talking. I mean, tactically and technically, you were one of the best guys I've seen in my life.
At that time. Perhaps.
No. Look at what you say on TV when I listen to you and Skalkberger Jr. And it makes sense for me who played the game, and I'm sure the other people will learn a lot. But I don't think people always realize how tough it is to manage a bunch of guys. But in your era, it was when you were the coach, when I was a player. We were very tribal, the Bulls and the Cheetahs and the Sharks. We weren't buddies.
No.
And you guys didn't have but you guys as the coaches didn't have the luxury of, listen here, guys are playing in Japan. They have to work together when they get together.
Exactly.
I remember when we played in Bloemfontein, we had a movie even but the Cheetahs were playing. And our Cheetah players, me, Os and Naka, we slipped out and we went and watched the game because we were Cheetahs.
Of course.
And when we got together, it was like, the Cheetahs and the Bulls, there was some friction. It wasn't South Africa. It was for sure. We won 17 test matches in a row. But I don't think we have that currently.
No.
When they play each other, they want to kill each other, but they understand it was different. I don't know.
No, I remember. That is absolutely true. I don't know if you remember the very first time we got together. We divided the groups up into 6 groups of 6. And I tried to get a backline player with the forwards and I'd get the Cheetahs guys separated, Afrikaans and English separated, and to try and break it up. And then each of those groups would discuss how they wanted the tour to take place and all that sort of thing. That was an attempt at it. But I never wanted to say to players, you're going to swap rooms every time with a different guy. Because I wanted the players to feel comfortable on tour. And I knew a guy's going to be more comfortable with a mate of his than he is with someone who he has to play against. But if you remember back then, the Currie Cup was massive. You win a Currie Cup, it's like a test match in South Africa. The only other game harder than that was against the All Blacks. And So when you're playing, I remember getting us together after you guys had lost against Western Province. It was really difficult because remember, I think it was Muller, Peter Muller's butt, who had scored a try, and there was a forward pass. Helgaard, that's right. And you guys thought you'd won the game, and then it was called back for a forward pass. And it would have been a hell of a win for Free State at Province. And at the time, the Province coach, obviously we had Alan Solomons who was coaching, which was also difficult then because there's a provincial aspect. And so the other guys think maybe the provincial guys the Western Province guys are getting a favor because there's a coach speaking in my ear. So it was very complicated. And I remember it was definitely Bulls, Sharks, and Cheetahs. Particularly, the Cheetahs were particularly tight. I mean, you and us, but it never bothered me because you guys performed so well on the field. And that's all I was worried about. But there's no doubt that if you like and respect the guy you play with, and you've gone through a few tough times with that guy, you're going to get better and better and better at playing with him. Instead of looking at him as that's the guy that last Saturday in a Currie Cup final, he cleaned me out in a ruck. I mean, I remember Foster Runt taking out a Province guy in a ruck. And then a week later, the next day, Sunday, you're meeting at Joburg and shaking hands. Well done. We're going on a 6-week tour to the Northern Hemisphere, and the guys having to see the doctor because of what Os did to him in a ruck. It's difficult.
I remember first van Heerden tackled off my rib in that Currie Cup final, and that was the first time I was actually picked before the previous year when I played against the French Barbarian. But if you take overall how it worked like that, you had Joost and those guys playing, but you also had and I want to touch a little bit on this because you're on the other side, and I think you're really doing it well. But if the Bulls won, I think it was still Quintus van Rooyen and whoever was that. If the Cheetahs won, it was George van Eck, the media guy. If if it was Gavin Rich or whoever was on this stage, Marky Hayoun and those guys. So the difficult thing, and that's something I want to try and touch on you, which I was surprised when I became a coach, is that you think it's easy to put guys together and they'll just play for the Springboks? Not if, or maybe I must use an example. Talks van der Linde was playing for us at Free State. And we had in Bloemfontein. He was a Free State. We didn't move around. And we were sitting in this restaurant on campus. And Talks said to us, he signed this Western Province contract. And we were all gutful. We were upset with it. And he said, here's his first check. And we saw the check, 35,000 rand. And is this possible? Exactly. And then later we found out it was his car that he sold. and he showed that as his first check.
Oh, dear.
But then he went on tour with us, and maybe this can be part of the story. We got after the game, he said to us, they beat us in the Currie Cup final, forward pass and everything, which was a forward pass. And Talks said to me, we now taught you how to play rugby, but and now I'm going to teach you how to, I hope Talksy doesn't take this the wrong way, now I'm going to teach you how to drink.
I remember that.
And I said, Talksy, sure? Because I'm gutful now. I've got a broken rib. Fritz tackled off my rib, and we were getting on the
plane to go to Italy. That first.
Yes. And Talks said to me, and I said, okay, come. But I was a youngster. It was my first tour. And Talks was now, he's played a few games, and Talks was sitting there, and Talks said he had this thing. I hope he doesn't get upset about this. We can cut it out if he gets upset. And Talks said he's got this thing. Drinking is all in the mind. I say, you just go to the mirror and you say, it's all in the mind, all in the mind. And Talks, don't talk nonsense, man. And he came, actually, no, and we swapped sweets. I said, come sit here next to you, because I'm gutful now. They beat us. And now he said to you, now he's going to teach me how to drink. And in those days, Nick, we weren't as professional. as we
No.
know.
I remember
there
clearly.
were some
no,
social
of
stuff.
course.
And Talk sat there, and we had first stop in the plane. We're flying to Italy now.
Yes,
It was
that's
Italy.
right. Yeah.
At the first stop, and nearly after a couple of stops, I thought, is this Talks thing working? Because I'm getting, but mellow. And Talks is still talking, and every now and then he comes from a bathroom and he's doing this, and it's just all in the mind. And I said to Smiley, now we're gonna order gin, but throw water into my gin glass,
Yeah.
and then Toka that caught up with Toka, and I don't want to tell detail that people think this is disrespectful, but as we
I love this.
as we get off the plane,
Yeah.
I see Talks is not well. And off the carrier where the luggage is, Talks, he doesn't take his talk back off, the caravel, or what do you call it?
Yes, yeah.
He opens his thing and he starts eating biltong out of this thing while it's
walking.
while it's going around the corner. Now I'm thinking, I'm in trouble here. Because you guys don't know who it is. And we had a gym session still that night, or a flush out.
We had a flush out, yeah.
And I was waiting to everybody, and I helped talk into the bus, and he was a senior. He was sitting at the back, and I was sitting in front. It was one of my first tours. I don't know if I can even say this, but these little things you put over when you put you at the headrest.
Yeah.
He was getting nauseous because of that, and he took those little things and he filled them up. And now I'm thinking, hell, I'm in trouble. And I kept him in the bus. I should have said player X. I should have mentioned
that's
names.
nice.
And as you guys went out and into the hotel, I waited in the bus and I took his luggage and everything. And now I see it's clear. I put him on the luggage trolley. And I was pushing him up this thing into the thing. But I'm afraid you guys would see me.
Yeah.
And as was it Rob van der Valk? Was
Rob van der Valk was the manager.
Rob van der Valk's the manager.
Yeah.
And as I saw me and Smiley, and the Swanepoel were pushing Talks up this thing.
The ramp. Yeah.
And as I saw Rob van der Valk, I said, oh shit, and we just left him. And he circled with that thing into the garden. And we left him there. And now we got to the room. Sorry, I'll finish up now. And the guy said, obviously, we're going for a flush out. And Talks is in the garden in this trolley thing. And I went to him and said, Talks, you definitely didn't taught me how to drink. You beat us last week. And I waited till all of you left. And I helped him to the room. I'll never forget his first thing is, I want to call my mom. And I said, God. And I don't even know in which city we were. I don't remember. And I said, let's call your mom. And he calls his mom. I'm not sure on which phone. I think mom's name's Bertha or something like that. I'm not sure what her name is. And he said to me, where are we? And I couldn't remember. I said, no, we're in Bologna.
You were right. Yeah.
Were we in Bologna?
Bologna.
I said, no, we're in Bologna. And I spoke to his mom. Shame, and I think Talks got a 10,000 rand fine. And
we caught him. I'll tell you my side of that story. So we get down, we get through. But you know how good you guys were. You got him through passport control. How you got him through passport control? Got his bag. And then I saw the media waiting there, and they were waiting for taxis. And I wanted to start off on a good foot with them, so right foot. So I said to them, get on the bus. Yeah, we'll give you and so they get on the bus. Then we get there, and I announced we're having a flush out in 20 minutes, half an hour. Get back in the bus, and we're going straight. Then we had to number, remember?
Yeah.
Normaal asseblief, 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, Talks is now 36 or something like that. And he doesn't answer. So I then say, well, where's number 36? So then I say, who's rooming with him? And someone puts his hand up and goes up. I say, bring him down, man. What's going on? So he comes on. He says, no, he's got travel sickness. Travel. But we'd flown from London and it had been a perfect flight. No clouds, nothing. So I said, no, there's something going on. I said to the doc, go and tell me find out what's wrong with Talks. So he comes back and the doc asked me to come out of the bus. So I go down there. He says, listen, I'm hell of a sorry to have to say this, but he's vomited. He's very sick. But he's alcohol. It's alcohol. Yeah. So I said, but how can he can't have got drunk. It was a 2-hour flight from London. How can the sir get drunk? He says, no, well, he's not capable of coming. And I remember then I called Gary. And Gary Teichman came out. I said, Gary, listen, man, this is not good enough. Remember we said if we're in our Springbok blazers, you behaved. If you're casual, well, that's up to you, And Gary said, I remember him saying that, please, the media were on the bus. They didn't see it. And let's wait and see. If it hits the papers tomorrow, then you might have to send him home. We can, but otherwise, can the players sort this out? This is a good opportunity. And remember, he got bliksem by Mark Andrews, James Dalton, and James Small. 2 each on the bum. They broke a couple of billiard cues, and he got half his fine of the tour taken away. So he had to learn a hell of a lesson there.
But then he got a red card or a yellow card. He was also sent home for something.
Yes.
The next year?
That was the next year. That was 97.
But Nick, so that's why I was saying him moving to Western Province. The Free State Cheetahs were upset. So you guys had to deal with that, and also then the media who was a blue bull or a shark or
exactly.
And if you can maybe recall this one, it was obviously. Yes, Nick, you won 17 test matches.
You did.
That group. But I mean, you were the coach. Yeah. And I actually want to talk about 3 instances that I can remember, 3 big moments in a game that I think could have changed a hell of a lot of how things were going fast. But just the media, I remember, I'll tell you now what we tried with the Stronger Together. Because I thought...
That's right.
I thought, I want to get to this media story when you guys play touch rugby against the media. I must get to that. But when we started, everybody was hashtag this and hashtag that. And they came up with hashtag Stronger Together. And we had I actually think with Gareth and the guys from TNW, we had a workshop and we said, but what does Stronger Together mean? And we came up with a suggestion, I don't want to latch onto that other thing that happened, is that I think you've got the players and the coaches, and we do the main job. Coach well, play well, and Saturday the fans see us playing rugby. Yeah. But then you've got the media. Yeah. If we keep them informed enough on the right way, with the not giving secrets away, but they've got enough information.
They need to write.
To write during the week. Then then the fans or the supporters go on Saturday and they watch that 80 minutes. Yeah. Now, they normally just judge you on that 80 minutes, which will always be the case, and which we must always accept. Yeah. But if you give the media enough access, hopefully they report correctly on what happened.
Fairly, exactly.
And not personal stuff about players, rugby stuff.
Exactly.
And that was actually the Stronger Together. The team doing this.
And the media
doing that. And then eventually the supporters decide.
Will decide, exactly.
Do we
support? So very, very good. Because a media person can turn the public against you in no time at all. With the Gary thing, the whole of Natal, Durban. I couldn't go and visit there without getting something thrown at me. And I had the thing with Mark here in touch rugby, so I didn't get well. And then of course, because I was English speaking and didn't speak Afrikaans well, I didn't have support in Bloemfontein. So at the end, I was probably not supported by any of the media. And what you've done is, it's not going out and asking them to support you. Yeah. It's giving them information and enough information so that they can understand what you're trying to do. And then they understand better how you play on Saturday, why you've selected a certain player, why you've made changes. I think that's been what you've created in the only Springbok coach who's done it is you've made the Springboks bigger than any of the provinces, which it should always be, but it wasn't in the past.
There wasn't.
No. So now you go to Greenpoint Stadium here. There'll be 38,000 supporters and the Bulls are playing. There'll be Bull supporters in the crowd, but everyone's having a good time. No one's saying we're going to donner this oak or have a fight or, it's collectively we support the Springboks. That's what drives the country at the moment. And the local competition is important, but not in the way that it was in those days. In that, it was almost a political thing in those days. That perhaps Durban was more liberal and Cape Town more liberal and a bit more conservative up north, and so it was almost the political thing. We came out of a very difficult period, in South Africa, and it's taken and. I'll go back to that first meal we had with you when I said to you, remember, I think I said, that to draw all South Africans together and to transform the team was going to be your biggest challenge, and to win with a transformed team, because you can transform and lose and then you get nowhere. You need the support. Yeah. And Al, you did that well.
But also, just maybe for the people that listen, I remember there in Stellenbosch, we got a few of the ex-coaches and I sat down with you guys and just asked, listen, and the biggest thing that came on is, listen, please the media.
Yeah.
Don't
don't think that they're going to.
Yeah, don't think that when you lose,
Yes.
and I actually want to actually boost the media a little bit, because I actually think the way they're seeing it now, and I know the first loss or a few losses, the same thing, but just getting back to is now this tribal thing, and people even counted this. The Bulls were winning the Curring Cup.
That's right.
Why is there only 6 Bulls players in?
Exactly.
Why is there only 5 Stormers in or 2 Cheetahs in? And I mean, you had to deal with stuff like that, because it wasn't fully professional. People didn't understand that you can track players and their stats and all that. Yeah. But then you told us there's this touch rugby game. And we all sit there. Now, we're also getting fed up, because we back the coach and we're seeing what the media is writing. And, you know, I for sure didn't have understanding on the media. Even my first 5 year of coaching, I buggered it up totally. I actually thought they were the enemy. Yeah, totally the enemy. Them, until you understand what their role is. How should the people know what happens on during the week if they only see them play on Saturday? You need the media.
Yeah, of course.
And we were all watching, and we thought this is like a touch rugby game that's going to get played. I think Markie Hein got your biggest brunt, or whatever the right word is. And we're just watching there, all the Springbok players sitting. He was in Australia.
Yeah, it was in Australia.
And Nick went in the first touch. He touched Markie Hein on the back, and Mark fell on his face. And we thought, no, this is getting lacquer. And then, you know, all the media guys who didn't like it, as you would touch tackle them, which was supposed to be touched.
It's like Henry. Remember Henry Honeyball, he used to push guys so that he could get the timing right on his tackles. Yeah. But I think Mark had written something which I didn't really like. So I thought, no, we'll play. Yeah, they asked to play against us. I said, sure, you know. And then, you know, he obviously touched with one hand. I said, no. As he took, he tried to dummy and go for outside gap or something. And
and then I'll team cheered, because we saw what was written. And I'm not talking Mark specific. It was just.
He will laugh about it today.
Yeah, he will. He would.
But even, I mean, that's so true, because, and you never win. That one thing I also learned out of this. Yeah. I remember an incident in New Zealand where we lost and we hadn't played well, and I said it was the inexperience of our 9 and 10 against Mertens, and that was with Rassie and Van Ooselen, which was a very difficult game for them, shame, and we didn't play well. And the guy, and I'd protected them, but then I had one interview, I think with a university radio or something, and the guy said, you know, it wasn't a great performance last year. And I said, listen, we lost a lot of experience in 2 key positions. You know, compared with New Zealand, we had 38 caps and 42 caps. Our guy had 1 cap and the other guy had 2 caps. And inexperience, you know, against New Zealand, it's. And I think Gavin read it and wrote an article saying that I'd been critical of my 9 and 10. And the guy who did the headlines in the Argus, Weekend Argus, says Mallett blames these 2, which I had. I shouldn't have ever said that, you know. And when I said I blamed them, I tried not to, but at that moment I've just slipped up a bit, you know. So I went to Gavin. I said to Gavin, listen, and what they said something about the South African public. No. Sorry, it's that right. They said the South African public will be very upset about this performance. And so I said, well, the South African public doesn't understand what goes on behind the scenes, you know, because there are issues behind the scenes like leadership and like experience that make a big difference. And the guy said, Mallett said that the South African public does not understand rugby. Jeepers. And you can imagine I didn't say that, but the way that the article was written was that I was saying South African public don't understand and that you can't say that in South. Of course they understand about rugby, you know. And I went to Gavin and I said to him, Gavin, you've got to write an article just saying I didn't say that. It was taken out of context. So he said he would, and the next day I saw it, said, Mallett apologizes for his comment yesterday. Yes. So you can never win. You can never, ever win.
I hope the media will also take this up the right way. Of course, it's just a fact. The first thing is, if you're a guy that writes for rugby, you can be in Pretoria or Tshwane or Kwega or Cape Town or whatever, you've got a certain opinion, how you think rugby should be played. And that's fine, because that's why Louis de Villiers was different from Sims or whatever.
Yes.
But I never knew, and that caught me with a bang, because the guy who writes the actual article, and the redacteur.
Yeah.
What is
Yes,
that?
yes.
He writes the heading.
It's the heading.
He,
Different person.
he writes
Yeah.
that heading. So you had this wonderful,
Yeah.
and it's not the guy that wants to nail you, the
No,
journalist,
no.
but obviously the heading has to.
The guy wants you to read the article, so he makes it as controversial as possible.
Yeah, and there was many times when I phoned the guy, I said, "Just we had
didn't
such
say
a lekker chat, man."
Yeah.
And why did the guy? He says, "No, well, the newspaper has to
Exactly.
sell."
Yeah.
And I guess over time when you learn that, I mean,
Yeah.
you were 42. When did you go to?
I started 41 when I first started and was fired at 43. So it didn't last long, 41, 42, 43. I mean, I learned all my coaching afterwards, really, probably better when I coached Italy in those terms. And I was 40s young, man.
It's crazy young. I always said, and I thought when I was 50, and again, people must take this the right way, please, is that I thought I want to be the Springbok coach when I'm 50.
Yeah.
And I had three reasons for that. Well, I was always dreaming of being a Springbok. It was not I want to. I was trying to be the Springbok coach. But I thought when you're 50, you'll probably, which you don't have, enough money not to dance to people's pipes and appease politicians and keep the, and also you don't have to keep the media happy.
No.
But then got it at 46 or whatever, 45, I'm not sure. But you then, when you realize, okay, but not get the media on your side. Be as honest as you can. And I guess social media helps.
Yeah.
I guess the getting to know the players, chasing the sun helps. Documentaries help.
Very much so. Very much so. No, and also, I think. Listen, there's no question that getting results help. So you can be as honest as you want. You can be as nice as you want to these people. You can show them all your practices, all your strategies, all the reason for picking. You start losing on Saturday, you can't. I mean, it's just the job. The job is South Africa wants a plus 70% win record.
And that's why I thought after 50, if you then accept that, listen, you're probably going to last as long as you win.
Yes.
The other, and that's why I thought, if you're 50 and you financially a little bit okay,
a little bit better.
You don't try to please people because when you lose, you lose, and that will stay the same for me for the next coach as long as it will be there.
My personality is a little bit different from yours, and I think you know that. You are much better with people above you than I was. I wasn't good with people who told me what to do. So. It wasn't to please them. I wanted the players to perform and I wanted the coaching staff to be happy. I wanted Rob van der Valk to make sure that everything worked on time. And then we'd get the results. And then I didn't want any interference from above. And that's difficult in South Africa. You need, when I say you need, there has to be a good relationship between the head coach and the director. We didn't have a director. I'd been a CEO in those days. And I think that's what you did exceptionally well. You were director of rugby first and then became head coach, but still had a director of rugby's role. Then you went back to director of rugby and you had Jacques. And then all the time you were working very closely with the CEO. And I think that's pretty critical as well, just to take a bit of pressure off you from the admin side as well. And I wasn't good at that. So at 43, they said, rather let's get rid of Nick Mallett because he's a bit too vingat and all that. And we'll put in someone who we can get on better with. And that in a funny way, it wasn't a bad thing because I was able to go and coach Stade Francais and then go on to coach Italy. So it was a pity from a South African perspective because I love coaching the box. But from a career perspective, it was at 43, you can't stop coaching at 43. You've got to start getting something else. And having had the Springbok experience, that gave me the jump start to go to Stade Francais and get a decent, like you did with Munster. There'll be no problems getting, if you ever wanted to coach anyone else, but I had to go and coach someone else. It wasn't a question because you can't stop at 42. I couldn't go in to work with SuperSport at 42. You got to do something. So that's
and probably again, you probably want to fall on your own sword. You don't want to please people and then you lose anyway. And then you go out and you think, but I didn't do what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
And I guess your mindset was
very much like that. It was very, very much like that. I said, listen, if you're not happy with the results, that's fine. But I spoke about ticket prices and they said, no, you've let South Africa rugby down. Listen, we came to an agreement, but I knew at the time that we weren't going to work well together. At the time, so it was a sort of a crash waiting to happen. That one, I think.
Maybe the last one on that. I think it's very tough for a head coach to report to a CEO.
Yeah. Different things.
It's financials
Exactly.
and equipping provinces. You know, there's a lot of other things. And I really feel if there's the guy who knows rugby and he just understands the other politics a little bit, like when Jock was Jock's top head coach. If you can keep all the nonsense away from him and let him just coach, then and I think
I needed someone like that.
Of course, Nick, maybe we can get to that. I mean, we won 17 test matches in a row under you. 17.
Yeah.
And I think I was lucky enough. I'm not 100% sure. I was going to check it. No, I think my first 13.
Yeah.
Because I was injured.
Injured in New Zealand, injured in England.
So we won 13. My first 13 that I played, we won. We were just lucky. But I remember three things so clearly, and maybe we can find the clip and cut it in there. The first one was when we were going for our 17th test match in a row against England.
Yeah.
I know there was things happening about a lot of other things.
There were issues,
which is not important. But go and look at the last...
You take a quick tap.
10 seconds. I thought we're still going to win.
You took a tap penalty in your 20. I never forget things. And I haven't watched the game ever since. I remembered it. You took a quick tap in our 22. You set it up and it went to, if I'm not mistaken, Stefan de Blanche.
Inside their 20.
Inside their 20. And no, his pass to, was it...
Peter of Percy.
No. It was between him and Snyman.
Yeah.
Andre Snyman. Between them, their guy, and I tell you, it was that little winger who's on television now. He knocked it back towards the try line. If that pass had gone, we would have won that game. We'd have won it. And in that game, Percy missed 2 easy conversions, 2 penalties in a conversion, which could come in your way. Also, they had an up and under in our in-goal area, and Stefan and Percy ran into each other, and their guys scored. I mean, we didn't play well. We really didn't play well. But we lost by, 10? I can't even remember. By 6 points?
I think if we scored that try, we would have won.
Yes, we would have. Absolutely.
That's the first one where I thought, yes, we could have saved that one.
But that quick tap,
which was big for you and for all of us. The second one was the drop goal of Larkham.
I can't believe that. It touched your finger, didn't it?
And I thought, it didn't even look like a drop goal. I thought he was going to kick for touch, and he's never kicked a drop goal in his life. And I think if that last try on the 70th test match, we won. Yeah. If that scored, we would have had 18.
Yeah, of
and then
course.
I think the Larkham one went through my
player
thumbs.
Final against France. We won that.
Yeah, we won that.
Absolutely.
And then the other one, which was actually in Durban, when people were saying this was like your last game. It was in the newspaper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember that we had. I remember that so well. It was Bramford Stratton kicked a thing. We were up 18-16, and then the movement went left, right. I think John Smith lost a tight head. I remember I got him on as hooker, and shame he hadn't played there a lot. And he said he was in a bad position. Anyway, we had a scrum in our own 22. We lost it, but and then it ended up with a turnover, and the ref was saying, "Leave it." And I think it was their winger thought he was talking to him because he was holding it on the ground, but he was actually talking, I think, to Corne, saying that Corne must leave it, and then Mortlock kicked it over. But more important was your thing, the line out and the interception.
Yeah, but I mean, if we scored that try, it was this move.
Can I tell you?
Yeah,
tell me if I get this wrong.
No, you go.
So during the week, I remember saying to the players, listen, I can miss a lot. If you've seen something, come to me and tell me about it, defense or attack. And I remember you were coming on my door and it must be Wednesday or Thursday, we had at least one practice too. And you said, listen, you've seen they've got a line out in their 22 that they do all the time. And it's Jeremy Paul, and it goes to John Eales, taking a front ball, then it goes down to Jeremy Paul, to Gregan, behind Mortlock's back.
Kefu.
Yeah, to Kefu. And, behind Kefu's back to Mortlock. They set it up, and then they pass it back to Latham and Larkham, who kick one left foot, one right foot. And I said, but that's no problem. We've got all the defenders in time. You must tackle Kefu in case he gets the ball. And you said, no, but he never gets the ball. I want to intercept it. I remember thinking, shit, that's a good idea. And then I said to, I think Joost or Smiley, I said, listen, I mean, Kefu's a big guy, but can't you just cover? Because we didn't have the scrum off on our defensive line. So I said, go for the interception and maybe Joost or Smiley, you must take Kefu if he gets it. In there 22, it's like I can remember it like yesterday. Like it was 25 meters, 20 meters you had to run. Ball goes in by Jeremy Paul, John Eales down to Gregan. Gregan behind Kefu's back into Rassie Erasmus's hands. scores, dives over, 2 guys on his back, Latham and Larkham. And I remember Latham doing that to your head. Well done, because you read it so well. And that was the first time that TMO had to say, "Did you see the ball being grounded?"
Yeah,
Instead
and I was lying on the ground,
impossible.
the ball under me.
There was no one underneath you, except for the grass, And they had to say he didn't see the ball grounded. So he said, "Did you see the ball grounded?" And the TMO had to say, "I can't see it. There are too many people on top." It was a ridiculous call, and we lost that game by 1 point.
And those were the 3 matches that I thought: World Cup quarterfinal, or semi-final, extra time, drop goal. The bloody one against England with the 17th Test match, and that one in Durban.
Can I give you another one? Can I give you coming to me in the game in Australia, and you and Smiley had seen that their first defender at the ruck chased. So you said, "What I want to do?" Yeah, he said, "I'm going to come flat and play back to Smiley," and I said, "Go for it, boy." In the game, Smiley to you, back to you, Smiley, under the poles, try. It's so lacquer when it works.
We still had a nightclub name for that, me and Smiley.
Did you?
We said whenever we call it 70s. So there was a nightclub in Midrand, it was called 70s. So when I said 70s, it was the first.
Beautiful. It's lovely when they work.
So those are small things.
Yeah.
Which if it works, it's awesome. 18 Test matches in a row.
I'll give you another one. Can I give you another one? This was with Ollie Leroux. That one we won 13-12 against Australia in Perth.
Perth,
and they were coming at us at the end. And they had a ruck just outside the 22, and Ollie fell on the wrong side of the ball. I mean, it was I was giving a penalty to Australia, and I'm a South African coach. And the ref that day, he just turned a blind eye to it. He said, "Play on, play on." And they were shouting, "Penalty, penalty." He didn't give a penalty, and we won the game. And I went to him afterwards. I said, "Hello, that must have been close, that penalty." He said, "It was a penalty, but they didn't deserve to win." He said,
"That's awesome. I wish that would happen."
Nowadays,
Really, Nick, can you remember this one? No. And I think that's probably the thing that's at the end.
Changed
the most important thing is, I think when players trust the coach. And shit, I trusted you. I mean, for me, that first time, we were in Italy, and the whole talks things happened, and now I'm the youngster in the team. You could speak French, some Italian. I
could swear in Afrikaans. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember you always sang at the Kontiki, and you were very confident, and I liked the way you went about things. I also didn't see you many times have one-on-ones. No, and I don't have one-on-ones with players. I never have one-on-ones. Siak Polisi's probably been in my room since 2018, where we sit alone in a room not more than 10 times. Of course.
It's amazing.
I feel the moment you're very close to a player, you start minding his performance.
Exactly.
Because you know his personal life, or you know.
Start feeling like
you can like the defense coach, and you can go and chat to the attack coach, but I don't want to know all your troubles. Apart from it's something that you need help with, and I can point you in the right direction. But now I'm starting to feel you out here at this first thing. And the guy says, "No, Nick is too busy." And not in a bad way, he's busy. We must get this guy's energy down. And I'm not going to name guys' names and everything. And they
Dick Muir,
Jeremy Thompson.
Exactly.
Names.
Lovely, man.
And they put it in
2 sleeping pills.
They took 2 sleeping pills
into a fish.
And wasn't it in a capsule? That was, I think. Anyway, they said it's for jet lag, and of course they caught me like that. They put the sleeping tablet in a capsule, and they say this capsule is for jet lag. But you had 2 in, no matter how you got it in. And I was sitting in the front of the bus, and we were driving to was it Italy?
I can't remember.
But I remember as you got out of the bus. But I could see you becoming a bit droopy and sleepy and everything. And we didn't get, I must tell you, we didn't get the sleeping tablet from a doctor. We had our own. And you were getting off the bus, but there was this big puddle of water. And you walked into that puddle of water, and here was the media. And you just started talking to the media. I don't know which language, French or Italian or whatever. And I thought, this guy's not getting that tired. We went onto the field, 2 sleeping tablets in. You did the whole training session. But you, like always, on our case, but in a good way. And as we got back onto the bus, the only thing you said is, this jet lag's really catching me a bit. And I thought, shit, you just had to sleeping tablets, man. And got back to the hotel, you can go to bed. And,
No, it
I
was
hope
fun.
nobody gets into trouble for that. 'Cause sleeping tablets is not something to joke about. Nick, on the one thing I want to do, I've said to you when you came and visited us there with the Springboks when we had some of the guys there. I have apologized there, but I also want to apologize for when me and you had a bit of a.
I understand why. I understand. I'll tell you why I understand, because it's a very difficult position. And when you get someone who you like and respect criticize you, it hurts much more. So I shouldn't have said that. I was worried about the referee situation.
No. And again, just for the people out there, we understand each other. I've apologized and you've accepted that. Thanks for that. For me, the biggest thing, Nick, is I think South Africa must understand and value the way they do it currently, and we must never not get fans' input. And when I say that is, if you go and watch somebody who plays golf, I mean, if you watch any else, and I've played a few rounds, you've played a few rounds, none of us go, oh, his swing is wrong.
I know.
You don't say this. His swing is wrong because I've also played golf. They don't say, the way he strokes the ball.
He's too close to the ball.
He's too close to the ball because he's professional in that. But that's what I love about rugby. Is that, the people get so involved. And trust me, I know there's a lot of people are very knowledgeable, but just the fact that even when they criticize, even when they burn jerseys, even when they hurt one's feelings by having a comment like that, I just think we are so blessed in South Africa. Bok Friday.
It matters, man.
Other countries don't have Bok Friday. People go into a shopping mall and put on jerseys, and there's so many thousands of people. And I think that's the one thing through all the stuff which I've learned is listen to those people, and if it makes sense, but don't get upset with them because they're passionate and they give their opinion.
No, that's exactly right. I think, listen, I've got to pay you a massive compliment, which is beyond the rugby, the technical side where you're brilliant and the way you're dealing with the players. But I think what you've done with South African rugby is show South Africa that there is an area which happens to be rugby, where we can be successful and work together and be popular. So the support that we get now, the Springboks get now, is South African, the whole of South Africa. I must say, when I was coaching, it wasn't the whole of South Africa, because guys didn't have players that they could respect or players that they could aspire to. A Sia Khaleesi, Oxenshare, Orange, Chesn Kolb. There's so many now, but all those guys, South Africans back the Springboks. So it's unusual to see someone in a All Black jersey. But if he wears it, it's because of historical things, and respect him for that. I think you can't shout at the bloke. He has a choice too. But what has been absolutely incredible has been the way that the whole of South Africa has responded to this Springbok team. Your period of being a Springbok coach, and with Sia in that side, and the way they behave and the way that they represent their country. I mean, it's just, and that's why you got the accolades that you did, Professor or Doctor. No, but congratulations. I mean, it is an unbelievable job, because it proves that we in South Africa can get something right. And there are lots of things we don't get right. So that we can hold up all the time and say, no. We might be stuffing up a few things, but this is one thing we haven't stuffed up, which means that the other things we can get right if we get the right people in the right position.
Thanks for saying that. We were 7 buddies at school, Dispatch High School, and we had a reunion about 2 months ago. And as you know, English is not great, and not everybody has degrees and stuff like that. So one of the buddies, I'm not going to mention his name, so he said, can't you just write me a prescription?
Prescription?
I said, what? He said, no, for sleeping tablet. I said, no, he's a doctor. Like, you don't understand. This is not nothing. It's not a medical doctor. It's not a real
It's
doctor.
honor. It's an honor.
It's just something. So
It's like Doc Lou Late or Doc Craven.
It's not a real thing. I want people also to understand, if you don't mind, at 42 coaching the Springboks. That's tough.
Listen, Rassie, the real problem, it happened hell of a quickly. I remember I was something like the 6th or 7th coach in 6 years. So they were going through coach. I thought if you lasted a year, that was a long time to be a Springbok coach. I think we'd gone John Williams and McIntosh, and I think we had Carl and Andre Markroff. And then I was along, and then I was very lucky that I'd coached Boland, for a couple of years, because I'd coached against the top provinces. And then you study those provinces, and you see the guys that you say cheap as that guy's special. We're battling to compete because this guy's such a good player, or that guy's. And so I knew when I got the job, the good thing for me was I went in very confident that I would know the Springbok side I wanted to pick, and who would be captain, and who would play in each position, and I was absolutely sure of it. But what I had no understanding of at all was the pressure of the job. No understanding. I thought, it's a game. It's a game. We win some, maybe we'll win more than we lose, and that'll be quite a good thing, because up until then the Springboks hadn't been, winning a lot. So it'd been 50% or something. So I thought, and then we had this role because I got a really good team together. That's it. I got the guys in the right place, Henry in the right place. Even Dick at inside centre, understanding the backline play. The pack hardly changed. We didn't change a single guy. And I remember going to you. I remember you being hell of upset. You missed that game in New Zealand. And I remember abscess, and you might have even played the one the week before when you shouldn't have, because you had an infection. And I remember saying to you, listen, you'll play the next game. You'll play because you haven't played yourself out by playing badly. You injured, and Andrew Aiken, I think, played the game. I said to Andrew, you must understand, even if you're man of the match, Rassie starts the next game, because I think a player had to play himself out of that position rather than.
You said that.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah. And if you remember that game and the game against England, you were straight back in for the following game after. It was the England game in '97. I think against France. Weren't you injured against France?
Yeah, I got that.
But you were back in for the game against Scotland.
Yeah. We had Doc Verster.
Who
was our team doctor. I don't know how many people know Doc Verster. I had that first operation where this pubis, some fasciitis or whatever. But Doc France always said, you can come with a broken jaw to him, you can come with flu to him, and then he'll just say, and then you'll go and he'll say, treat it. So he took your pubis bones go like that together. There's a seam there, and mine moved like that. And he says, and he puts me there, and he says, he said to Smiley, he must hold me down, and he took the injection, and now he's finding he's trying to find this seam. And he's injecting, and it just comes out in the outside. But he was, anyway, I played that weekend. But he was the guy, he would run a Comrades on a Saturday or Sunday, and be at training the Monday the next morning.
Perfect doctor. Do you remember, I'll give you another one. Do you remember the kickoff when we were leading by about 40 points in that game against Scotland? And straight off the top from Kleiner Otto to you, and your cross kick to Peter.
But Nick,
fantastic
I'm
story.
not sucking up to you, but you allowed those things. And what I see with the players a lot now, if you let them help make the plan, you just get so much further.
Absolutely.
You get so much further. But just before we get, we've chatted after this lack of stories, man. My mum, can you remember this one? We were actually in the World Cup. People thought we were going to fall out.
Came into the quarterfinal. We dropped goals from Yanni De Beer.
And
then back to the England team.
Yes. And now we had to get to this hotel. At the Grand Hotel, where England was going to say because they thought they were in semi-final.
Yeah, exactly. They hadn't taken their kit out, I remember.
Yeah, and we had to wait outside because their kit was still in there. They thought they were going to go through. And my mom said to me, yes, he met the most, he's the most loveliest guy. He gave me a hug and everything before the game. And I say, who? She said, no, Nick. I said, did mom toch gepraat? Yeah, we chatted a very long time. And I thought, what did she say? And
I used to love the support. Family would come. I think you remember that Rob van der Valk was very good at that.
Yeah,
he would say,
brilliant.
He'd ask each player, have you got a girlfriend coming? Has your mother coming? Your parents? How many tickets do you need? And are they at the airport? Can I send them a taxi? You know, and so the players, he wanted the players not to have any problems at all. They could concentrate just on playing. He was outstanding, and he really loved the players. So he wanted to be accepted by the players. So, you know, with your mama, he would have been involved in that, you know, in making sure she was comfortable, and because it's difficult to come from South Africa to London, and if you're Afrikaans speaking, you're not 100% sure about what's going on, where the players are staying, what time do they leave, and I just loved the support. I loved them coming.
But can you remember that hotel? It was this big old
Petersham, wasn't it? Petersham Hotel.
Old hotel. And then my mom said hello and everything.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I got a single room. But I'm a hell of a scared for the dark. I don't want a single room. I want to share with somebody. And I got the single room, and I remember going up into the room, and my mom and everybody left, and it's dark, and it's these old wooden forest. And I was lying in this bed, and I always push my bed against the wall. I want my back against something. I want to see. I want to see what's coming. And I put my things down. And I went to the shower, and I haven't opened my bags yet. And I went to the shower, and I came back, and my bed was all in my car, and my bag was packed up. And I thought, shit, do I have concussion, or what happened to me in this previous game? Of course, in those days, we weren't allowed our wives or the children family. It was only exactly. And that's again where I've learned some things which we're implementing now.
Yeah, very good.
And Nikki, who was then my fiance, I think, they were staying in another hotel. And now I'm looking at this bed, and I'm thinking, and there's this branch that goes against the window. And I'm afraid. And I phone her, and I say, listen here, the wives are allowed here. She must come. And I remember I walked like a kilometer and fetched her, and then I stuck
in the back door.
I just didn't want to sleep alone. But it was so lucky seeing the England guys go out.
But well done. That's really good. That's well done.
So I knew you wouldn't be upset, but I was really just too afraid. But on that, again, things that we learned there from Rob. I actually spoke to Rob. You gave his number a week ago. And it's not sad, but you just think a guy like him that did so much, trying to find rugby tickets for a game. It's unfortunate that guys was but we'll sort him out. We had a chat about him.
Good.
But we just found then that, like things there.
Yeah.
If you have your family and your children there, or
comfortable,
you cater for them. The guys even bring a barber in now on a Thursday, and the guys here.
So he doesn't have to go out.
He doesn't have to go out, and we kind of give them. Where we used to have Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Wednesday was off.
So we go now Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesday morning, and we give the guys their weekend Wednesday, not like weekend
afternoon,
party,
but
Wednesday afternoon and Thursday.
Okay, that's nice.
They can go with their wife on a Wednesday, and then the Thursday they can go and play golf or whatever. Some of them do appearances and get a few bucks. So those are things that you learn.
Exactly.
That helps.
But Rassie, a happy team, to your honesty, to be absolutely honest, a happy team, the guy is going to pay you back on Saturday. If that guy feels that you are caring about him and about his family and about his kids, and that you care about if he's lonely or scared, I wouldn't have known that. You would have been too scum to tell me.
I would never tell you.
So I mean, those are so important, and I think other teams don't necessarily do it. I don't think, did New Zealand have their wives there before the final of the World Cup?
No, very few guys.
No.
But I also don't know their culture. What do they see as intrusive or whatever? Maybe talking about this, when we lost to Australia, we were now going to play France for third and fourth place.
Let you guys go.
And you said to you guys, no guys, we're just going to have one practice. I remember the captain's practice. And we and Van der Swanepoel, Smiley, and it was Jalpie Mulder, I think. We hopped onto a plane and we went to Holland. And we thought, we're playing, for third and fourth place. Those days, I don't think it was so important.
No, but we thought it was France too, and we'd given them 50 points a couple of years ago. So we thought, no, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then Sunday.
No, but we arrived there, and there weren't internet and stuff. We didn't have cell phones. But and we were booked in there, and we were having a nice time in Holland. And by the Wednesday, we said, guys, we didn't have phones. I can't remember
the game was on Thursday. Thursday night. So I said, we'll have a practice on Wednesday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to get back by then.
And I don't know if we couldn't afford roaming or did we have cell phones or not. And in the hotel, I'll never forget, is this remote where you can go onto the internet, but then you had to have this little toggle and then you have to type in for rugby or whatever.
Yeah.
And Smiley said, I'm not going to say, I'm going to say, damn it. Smiley said, oh, damn it, man. I said, what? I said, no, France won. We're playing New Zealand. and we said, shit, we must get back to training. And we're all back on the plane.
We only had one practice. Do you remember? Remember that we had one practice book. And they had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday captain's practice and then lost on Thursday. But you know why we won that game? This is, I promise you, it was not coaching. It was nothing. It was just saying Henry Honeyball is playing his last game for the Springboks. You can't lose this game for this guy. He's done so much for South African rugby. I remember, hell, the guys played well that day. It was unbelievable. I mean, we really played. Remember Brady, the little chip over Cullen, and then he kicks it again and scores. I mean, a little bit against the run of play, but that's what happens when you have a little guy who's as fast as that.
I guess the New Zealanders will forgive me for saying that, but you know, when you're facing the Haka, I remember Tane Randall was the captain in that game. Tane Randall.
Yes, I remember, absolutely, yeah.
And I think them losing to France, obviously
John Hart was fired.
We were also drop goal in extra time.
Exactly.
We all were getting cramps and it was just sad. But I remember them doing the haka, and obviously we remember that it was Lem, was his last game. But we were so up for it because we were playing New Zealand.
Exactly.
But you can see they were really still hurting. Even when they did the haka, it wasn't
like it used to be.
It felt like they weren't into it. Other interesting one, sometimes which Jannie de Beer is one of my favorites. I mean, Jannie
exceptional that day.
There's so many people that claim who decided the drop goals against England.
Exactly. It wasn't me. All I know is I was told that he kicked drop goals, and I remember at the golf course going to him and saying, "Why? I hear you like kicking goals." And he said, "Yeah," and I said, "You haven't kicked any at this World Cup. Why?" So he says, "Because you wanted me to play like Henry Honeyball." And I said to him, "No, we're going to stop that because Jannie, each player has his own way of playing, and he played deeper and had a very good kicking game."
Yes, yeah.
And I remember then saying to him, "Where do you like to kick the drops from?" And he thought I was mad. He said, "From in front of the poles, obviously." So,
and we just started
and so remember, we used to set them up two moves. The center would take it up, and then Andre or Os round the corner, in the middle, back. Unbelievable.
I remember I had three when I either cleaned or placed the ball, then I just lied on the ground and checked.
You just see that ball. Five in that game. At halftime, he hadn't kicked one. He kicked 5 in 12 minutes. I think it was 12 minutes.
Am I right, Nick, to say, and again, me and Jannie is very close friends, maybe sometimes also the pressure of him doing so well there.
Yes.
Because he started the next game.
Yes, okay, I'll tell you another story around that. Yeah. So now he's kicking the drop goals. Now, I know we're playing Australia in the semi-final. Australia have Larkham and Horan and, and there's Latham and the really good backline. I mean, that's one area we had to be good on defense. And so, obviously I wanted Henry to play. And there he's busy kicking drop after drop. He scores 30 odd points in the game, however many we won, 32, whatever, 11. And I get a tap on the shoulder and I turn around because now he's on the bench. Lem, and he says, "You can't change this team."
Really?
So I said to Lem, "I'm not taking the decision now. I'm taking this weekend." He says, "No." He said, "You can't change. You cannot drop him after this game. I'm not going to accept it." How's that? He said, "I'm not going to accept it if you pick me for this game. I won't accept it."
It's so nice, but I think it's wrong, not from him.
Okay, so let me go further. So he plays the game. We lose that game. I mean, it was heartbreaking. We lose the semi-final. And I go into the showers just to calm down a bit, and in comes Jannie. Jannie, now after that game, he'd played. Lem had come on in the second half. We weren't able to beat Australia. It was wet. It was a difficult game. It was going to be decided on a lucky penalty. No tries, And Jannie, I hadn't told Jannie. Obviously, I haven't told him that. And Jannie says, "Nick, please, in this third and fourth, no one wants to play this. But in this third and fourth playoff, please, I don't want to play. Please put Lem there. And I think the team will play hard for Lem." Now, how's that? What country, where else in the world will two players give up their place for the betterment of the team? They think that Lem thought that it would be wrong to drop drop Jannie after such a good performance, and vice versa. And they didn't know between the two. They didn't told each other this is what we're going to do. I mean, can you imagine a soccer player Messi going say, no, put in rather Ronaldo? Never, man, never.
But Nick, that's what's happening currently I'm not talking about the Springboks specifically. I think South African players are starting, to that Springbok level,
Less
are starting
selfish.
to realize, but listen, we call it, we've got the Springboks call it, we will all eat eventually.
Yeah.
Ons almal sal uit die beker
Yeah,
uittrek.
that's fantastic.
I remember Franco Mostert was playing I didn't know that, his 50th test match, and we picked Lou de Jager.
Yeah.
And I was seeing Franco was playing, he's going to play off the bench, and then just one of the media liaison came to me saying, and this was captain's practice.
Yeah, jeez.
And he came to me and he said, it's Sousa's 50th game. And the team's announced everything, Loot's going to start, and we're in the huddle, and I know I feel really bad, but Loot says he just want to say something. I say, yes, he said, would coach, with Rassie, Rassie, would you mind if Franco start?
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And so started, he's a very tough man, but he started crying. And a few of the other players, because and I actually felt so bad that nobody else said me that earlier. But now we've got this thing, when you haven't played this game.
Yes, brilliant.
I think you just get so much further.
Yeah, of course you do.
Listen, I was bad at that.
Yeah,
with Bobby and me.
Not accepting the. He never took your place, if you ever remember.
No.
You came into the team and threatening, Andres, and threatened, took Gary's. So it was difficult for you. I mean, if I had said to you, listen, I'm going to play him at number 8, or rather, he wouldn't, because he wouldn't have ever played open side. You played open side, so. But no one wanted to swap because we couldn't get that I couldn't get that into the players that it was going to lengthen their career because people just thought now I want to play now, and I'm dropped. The guys think being dropped. People phone up, why were you dropped? And
the media wants to know. Of course, we don't call it drop now anymore.
No, of course not. No, it's rotation.
But we were bad, Nick. Of course, it was like me, Andre Venter, and then it was Gary, and we played so many test matches together. And that's why I actually it helped me now to see that shit. Don't let the players be what you were there. And the thing what happened, we were playing in Durban. We were behind. James Dalton scored that try, 22, whatever.
23-5, I think it was. And we won.
And actually, when you took me off, they scored all the tries.
No, it was not only you, but
we won the game.
Yeah.
And I sat there on the bench and I thought, what is the nicest, being there on the final whistle or running on? And that's actually when we started the bomb squad. I called the guys in and said, boys, Beast, Kitty. Of course, I remember I wanted to be there when the final whistle.
When you win the game.
And then they say, when you actually
balance it. Yeah.
We were terrible in that regard. We were we even had an injury.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't tell.
You wouldn't tell about
in the game against England, the doc told me afterwards 3 guys were injured. And I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, the players asked me not to. So the doc would listen to the players because he was so loyal to you guys. Whereas he should actually say to you, I think you had Sasha Ngomazulu playing with a knee. Now that's, now he had to learn a lesson. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You've got to, as you quite rightly said, a guy who's not 100%, that the difference between 2 players is so small anyway that if a guy's injured, he can't be better than the guy who's fit, who's 100% fit and wanting to play. So it's not being dropped. Just give this guy the opportunity, and when you're right again, you'll get yours. I was with Kitsy this morning, and he told me, he just said it had made such a difference to the guys to know that it's extending their careers and giving experience to young guys. So, they know that it's prolonging their opportunity to play in the Springboks. But at the same time, the guy who might take their place won't be taking the place with 0 caps. He's going to be taking the place with 20 caps.
So when he plays with you next time, you've got a more experienced player.
Of course.
More experienced player with you.
Yeah.
Just with you, can I just quickly, because I don't know a lot of people know, can you just, in 2 minutes, how long you want to take, just run through, because I interviewed, we chatted, me and Donnie chatted, and there's a couple of guys who's my heroes. But your playing career, there's a very famous story. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if you want to talk about that. Our selectors and you
I
actually
was a bit
showed
cross.
it. A bit cross. And you don't, but just quickly, how many games? When did you move to France? And
Yeah, mine is very quick. I mean, obviously, every South African wants to play for the Springboks, So I'd been overseas, studying overseas. I came back. I came into a really good Western Province team. I was very lucky. If you're in the team that's winning, it helps everyone, So I had Rob Lowe and Tian Stoffberger. Stoffie's from Bloemfontein. Fantastic rugby player. Rob Lowe, brilliant. Very similar to you, in fact, And I was a number 8 who could play a little bit, but I mean, I had a really good front row, Hempie Stotoy, and we won 82, 83, 84, 85. We won the 4 Currie Cups. And because of the political system at the time, there were very few test matches. And so in 84, luckily England came out. But I played Free State in a Currie Cup game, and Flip van der Merwe, the big Flip, stood on my ear and cut the ear in half. So I didn't manage to play against England. I was injured, and then South America came. They couldn't call themselves Argentina, but they came, Jaguars, And luckily I got selected for that. So only 2 Bok caps. And then the following year, it was a really exciting year. New Zealand was supposed to come on tour, and France was supposed to come on tour. And I mean, you play France and New Zealand for the Springboks. I mean, I was, and they both cancelled the tour. So it was a bit heartbreaking, and they had an internal tour, and I wasn't picked for the Springbok team because they thought Jannie Breert was playing really well. Anyway, even though I was still playing with Province, I was picked for a Western Province Barbarians team to play the Boks at Newlands. And Andre Markgraaff was my lock. He was captain of the team. And I had a guy called Andrew Alexander. Funny enough, he played for one of the coloured clubs. And he was a 7 flanker, a big, tall guy. I took him to France afterwards to play with me at St. Claude afterwards. But we beat the Boks that day. And they had Donnie Gerber, Nas Botha, Ray Mort, all the big accents. And I'd signed to go overseas.
Oh, so you knew
I knew I was out of there anyway. And it was, it was a stupid thing to do, but it gave me a bit of pleasure, to point at the scoreboard and just say to the Oaks,
but it's legendary.
and then so that was overseas, and then I played until I was 38 because I just loved as a player coach in France, the 2nd division, took them to the 1st division, then went to Paris, a 2nd division team, took it to the 1st division, and that's when I learned to coach, because I suddenly realized it's not you, it's about the other 14 playing well, and then you can play well, and then we're going to win, so coaching other guys to do the right thing, and that helped me when I came back. False Bay, couple of seasons, and then Boland, and then the Boks, very young and quickly, and pleased with myself. I thought I knew everything, and then obviously you don't, and you get hit hard with the losses, and you make mistakes, and hopefully people learn from the mistakes they have learned from the mistakes I made. And then, you say, okay, now I've got to start again, and that was Stade Francais. And luckily, we had a good team there. We won 2 French championships in both years.
Yeah.
And then Italy for 4 years, which was like coaching Boland again. You're up against it all the time, but with a team, you can get a lekker gees going.
Yeah.
And we managed to win a few games there that they hadn't won before. We beat Argentina away. We beat France for the first time in Italy. So we had a couple of really nice wins there. And almost the proudest one was playing New Zealand in New Zealand. I think the score was 27-6. And they only scored 3 tries against us. And then they came to Milan and we lost 20 points to 6 and they only scored 1 try.
I actually remember your interview afterwards, them not scoring 4 tries or something like
yes,
that.
Exactly. I just said we're not going to get daunted by these guys.
Yeah. But when you coached Boland, I remember you did really well, but you came and played.
I remember 70 points that first game.
In Bloemfontein.
In Bloemfontein. So there's a lovely story here. So now we go up. Now Rob wants to come. They haven't got the budget for Rob. So I said, no, don't worry. We'll come. I stay in my room, So we get there, there's a double bed now. so I say, Rob, man, it'll be fine. We'll have a few drinks. You keep on that side of the bed. I'll see you. Now we watch the game. I say to the guys, it's only the 3rd game. We beat in Southwestern Districts and we go there, and I think there are about 7 or 8 Boks in this Free State side. And our guys our defensive system was all, the guys would start, as you won the ball, our guys would start running back towards our try line.
Was that Jannie Brooks, Russell Nelson?
Yes, Russell, exactly. Russell Nelson. And funny enough, there was a Marius Goosen. There were some good players, but they hadn't been coached.
He was my first roommate ever.
Really?
With the SA side.
Yes.
SA side.
So we took 70 points. And I just could not believe it. I never ever coached a team that lost by 70 in my life, And that night, Rob van der Valk and I were in bed, and Rob says he just remembers me bullying him and said, 70 points! Can you believe it? And I'm like, no. Fuck it, 70 points.
But Nick,
the return game, remember the return game at Stellenbosch? It was bloody 25-23 or something like that. It was a really close game.
But I remember, and that's why I love the way the French people allow the coach to stand next to the field.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can remember that Free State Stadium. You were sitting like on the second tier, and we were on the field, and I could hear you.
We shouted.
And your players from there, but we started laughing.
Figurative, exactly.
Oh,
no, I did. It took me a long time to realize that when you come back to South Africa, you must behave. Because I was able in France to run up and down. You could shout at the ref, everything, man. It was fantastic. You could get all it out of your system,
Did you study at Oxford?
Yeah. 2 years there.
Okay. But you played cricket and rugby at Oxford.
Yeah.
Sorry, you must just push him away.
No, he's a fantastic. I love dogs. He's shit.
So we go on a Shimla tour. I must tell you the story.
Yeah.
And we play Oxford.
Yeah.
And we've never been to this. I mean, I'm from Eastern Cape. I don't even know what great colleges. I don't even know what bishops or I don't know though. And now we're going on the Shimla tour, and we're going to Oxford. And now obviously there's these nice memorabilia and stuff, and we don't know what cutlery to use. It's very grand. And the team manager calls us in, and he says, the manager calls us in and he says, guys, what do we now? Kayer, a student, 1993, 1994. And he says, we know something has been stolen. So tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. That guy must come out. If you come and hand it over to me, nothing will happen. We'll just give it back to the university. But it's not like stolen. It's like a memorabilia. And we come the next morning, and there's another guy. Franco Smit. Franco's going to Glasgow now. He comes with a teaspoon. He just at dinner he took a teaspoon. But what was actually stolen was very precious. I don't know if you can call it ashes of somebody that. But the guy wanted the vase. He didn't want what's in the vase.
Didn't want the ashes inside.
He didn't want that. So when Franco came up with the teaspoon, they said, "No, that's not what you're looking for." And then eventually the guy came back and he said, "Sorry, I thought it was just a beautiful thing." I don't know, but that's my remember.
It was probably Lord Nelson or someone like that.
Well, they gave it back. They got it back. I don't know, because a couple of guys when Franco gave the teaspoon and the guy said, "Not that, it's much more important." And I knew other guys had other things that they like a tie or stuff like that. Yeah, that was my experience.
Franco is the most God-fearing guy. Sorry, I took a spoon.
It's a teaspoon. Yes, Nick. No,
fun stories, man.
I don't know. There's that's it, man. I just wanted to say thank you and catch up.
Listen, man, thanks for the invite, Rassie. It's been a long time and it's been a pleasure. Do you remember when I asked you to be captain?
I remember.
Yeah, I remember you saying no. I couldn't believe it.
But do you know, Nick, I don't know, sometimes. I remember when me and David O'Sullivan did the book.
Yeah.
Sometimes you form what you saw that time as the reality. And people sometimes think you're lying. Yeah. And I so much have to check myself sometimes. And I said to him, listen, you're right in the beginning of this book, my memory.
Yeah.
Because you sometimes form
I know, a
things
little bit differently.
You sure it happened like
exactly,
that.
Exactly.
But I've told many people when I played that first SAA game, and Mark Groff was the head coach, and you were the midweek coach.
Exactly.
And I know that I couldn't get to wherever we played, Brief, or I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
And the French rugby union couldn't take me to, and they said there was a petrol strike by the tankers on the.
Yeah.
And I got a student who I drove with him. I'll never forget, in the back of his seat. That was my first
Springbok cap ever
against the
in the French Barbarians. Yes,
and
yes.
the guy drove me, a student, and he says, no, he doesn't follow rugby. And I remember all his laundry was in the back seat. And we drove there, and I got to the hotel, and you guys were busy doing line-outs. As I got out of the student car, I wish I can contact the guy and he can get to know him.
Thank you so much for getting
that was my first game. And you know, I will always remember, and again, it's what you form in your head, because that's how you wanted it to be.
Yes.
And I remember the first ball I picked up was a leather ball in the game, and I thought, we're playing with leather balls still. And Josh Cronfield tackled me because he was the French barbarian. And I just remember it back and hearing you shout. But again, you've told me many times it couldn't be you sat in the stands.
But you heard me. You probably could hear me from the stands anyway.
But when you
What did I shout?
When you ask me for the captaincy, there's so many things that goes around about that. And for me, really, Nick, I loved analyzing, understanding, seeing what the opposition do. And I know I couldn't speak well to the media. I know, I wasn't the greatest example. I know I was selfish.
Now, I tell you what you told me. I'll tell you, because I do remember it. I was maybe 10 years older than you, or just a bit more. But I remember it was in Durban, and it was when you heard and we knew that I was not going to be taking Gary to the World Cup. And I wanted to make a clean break from Gary and get someone who I thought I could really work well with. And I thought to myself, there's only one guy. I'm going to go and ask him, and he's never going to. Why will he say no? Every young guy wants to captain South Africa. And I remember asking you, and I remember you having that smile on your face and being quite embarrassed and saying, no, I don't want to. And I said, don't be ridiculous. And you saying, no, I don't. The two reasons are, I have a lot of fun, and I can mess around, a bit of a joker. And secondly, I don't agree that Gary should. I want Gary still to be those two things. And I remember those two things very clearly. And so, congratulations. I mean, that was a moral standpoint and also a personal one. But I don't think we would have lost to Australia in that semi-final if you'd been captain. I don't think so.
The last one, and maybe, I don't know, also, I remember the one thing that I really enjoyed, never expected us to call you coach. No. And I think Rob van der Valk helped a lot, and Solly. It was like...
Just Nick,
And I think me and Bobby are actually very good friends now. We were... enemies, and Andrew Aitken was such a nice guy,
but he was your opponent.
He was my opponent. In those days, you weren't teammates. You were stalwarts.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing that I liked when we went to France, and I mean, I remember when we beat them with plenty points in the last game at the old stadium.
At the old stadium, exactly.
I remember you going, and I thought you were like giving them some, but they were all behind you, and you went like that.
I know,
and the crowd
started
exactly. And you were next to the field.
Yes, I was next to the field.
You were then next to the field.
Exactly.
And I just think the more human a coach can be, and sometimes. Make a mistake and swear and be emotional.
No, that's good.
Because I remember you took us.
I took us through the Bois de Boulogne. Showed you the nightlife of Paris. Exactly.
I was amazed. I can go with this guy for a couple of years as a coach. I was a player.
It was fun.
And I think that human touch, not being above the players.
That's true. I think the most important thing is hopefully they respect you, but you want to have a good relationship with your players, and the more I care for a player, not only about how he is as a player, but as a person, I know the more that guy plays well for me. And it happened in Italy. The more I spoke the language better, Italian better, the better the Italians responded to me, and the better they would play. And I still regret, my biggest regret is not learning Afrikaans before taking the Springbok job. Because I'd only just come back. I'd been back from France, where I'd been in France in English and French. And then I'd coached False Bay, and suddenly, so it'd been 10 years, and I went to English schools and then to Oxford. I never, like you with English, you never had an opportunity to speak that language. And I think probably the best thing for me would have been but I didn't know I was going to get the job. But if I had the time again, I would go to a place that only spoke Afrikaans for 3 months and just make sure that I could speak to you in Afrikaans, to Os in Afrikaans, to Krana Otto in Afrikaans, and to Gary in English. And because if you speak the guy's language, there's a barrier there's no barrier there.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if I'm speaking English and you having to speak Afrikaans, there's a barrier there, you know, and it's harder to get to know. You won't trust, I don't think you trust someone as well if they don't speak your language. So you getting better at English has made a hell of a difference, I think, with the English-speaking people. And Afrikaans, obviously, you understand them well. I think that was a big mistake of mine. But in retrospect.
But I mean, then you would have been able to speak four languages. You've done well enough. You've done well enough.
Oh, it's been
Nick, baie dankie, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it.
It's really been fun. Thank you very much.